My daughter's husband didn't flinch when he said it. 80% of your pension is for your sister, and the remaining 20% is for me. End of discussion. He said it with the arrogance of someone who thought I had nowhere else to go. And for a second, he was right. For a second. I stood in the doorway of their perfect suburban kitchen, sunlight bouncing off polished countertops, my mug of instant coffee still steaming in my hand. They had taken me in after my stroke. I was slower now, quieter, and apparently easier to control. But that day, something inside me, something I thought had withered, began to burn again. I chuckled. Not bitter. Not loud. Just enough. I looked him square in the eyes and said, "From now on, every penny stays with me, and you'll pay your own bills." Now that's the real end. He thought I was bluffing. My daughter looked at the floor. No one asked if I was okay. My name is Frank Whitmore. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever raised a family, only to be told your worth lies in what's left of your bank account? I spent 40 years fixing planes, hands greased, back bent, saving for rainy days I never saw coming. I paid for weddings, hospitals, tuition, funerals. And now they wanted to divide me like a checkbook. But they didn't know something important. I may walk slower, but my mind is still faster than theirs. And while they sat around planning how to use my pension, I was planning something else. Something quiet. Something final. I didn't raise leeches. I raised expectations. And now they'd meet mine. Because the next morning, I was gone. No goodbye. No note. Just a single canceled deposit and a locked bank account. I left before the sun did. No suitcase. No farewell. Just my father's old jacket, my bank card, and a copy of my discharge papers, tucked in the inside pocket like a badge of freedom. The front door didn't even creak when I shut it. They wouldn't notice I was gone until lunchtime, when I didn't take out the trash or refill the fridge. And even then, they'd think I was just sulking in the garage. But I wasn't in the garage. I was 2 towns over, sitting at a small diner off Route 71, sipping weak coffee and listening to a waitress named Pam tell me how her cat learned to open a fridge. For the first time in months, someone was talking to me like a human being, not a wallet. My name still meant something out here. The manager of the diner? Turns out, he flew on one of the old planes I used to service in the Navy. "Frank Whitmore," he asked, eyes lighting up. "You're a legend." I smiled. First time in weeks my cheeks remembered how. By sunset, I had a room at a veterans housing center. Clean bed. Quiet walls. No one asking for my money. Just a few old-timers like me playing cards and keeping our pain quiet. Meanwhile, back in that big house, I imagine they found my pension account frozen. No auto deposit. No backup fund. No emergency money. I knew my daughter would panic first. She was used to comfort. But it was her husband, that man with soft hands and a loud mouth, who would feel it in his pride. Because when your life runs on someone else's engine and the fuel stops flowing, you stall. And I had just cut the line. Tomorrow they'd call. Then beg. Then blame. But I wouldn't be picking up. I had a new plan now. And it didn't include a single ungrateful soul. Let them learn to survive without what they never earned. The first call came at 9:12 a.m. Blocked number. I already knew who it was. I didn't answer. The second one, 9:47 a.m. "Dad, please call me. It's urgent." "No, are you okay?" "No, where are you?" "Just urgent. Code for, we need your money." I sat on the porch of the center, watching a squirrel try to outsmart a bird feeder. He was clever, that squirrel. Didn't fight the system. Just waited till the birds made a mess and picked up the leftovers. Smart. Patient. Silent. I let the phone ring again. See, they had forgotten one important truth. I wasn't just a pension. I was a person. A man who once built bikes from scratch for his daughter's birthdays. A man who skipped new shoes so his family could eat steak on Sundays. A man who worked 42 summers with no vacation so she could go to college. But somehow, in their world, that all expired the moment my hand started shaking. By noon, my daughter was calling from a different number. Then her husband. Then her husband's mother. They were unraveling. Because when a parasite loses its host, it panics. Around 3 p.m., I walked down to the town library, logged into an old email I hadn't used in years, typed one message. I'm safe. I'm at peace. And for the first time, I'm living for myself. Don't call again. I didn't sign it, Dad. Not because I was angry, but because that word had become transactional. To them, Dad meant deposit. Dad meant doormat. Not anymore. I closed the laptop and breathed. The air was crisp. My pockets were full. And for the first time since retirement, I felt rich. 3 days passed. No calls now. Just silence. But silence, it can scream when guilt starts to itch. I knew how this story would play out. Not because I'm wise, but because I've seen what people do when the ATM stops working and the heart attached to it walks away. On the 4th day, a letter arrived. Forwarded to the vet center. No return address, but I knew her handwriting. My daughter. The envelope was thick. Not from love. From desperation. Inside, one apology, 2 excuses, 3 pages of emotional blackmail, and a line that nearly made me laugh. You're being dramatic, Dad. We were only trying to help you manage your money better. That's what they called it? Help? Taking my pension and splitting it like pie slices? They wanted me to fund their lifestyle, while I aged quietly in the guest room, like forgotten furniture. I used to be the man they called strong. Wise. Our rock, my daughter once said. But rocks don't move, right? And once I stopped moving, stopped giving, I became useless in their eyes. But here's what they didn't know. I wasn't just living quietly. I was documenting everything. Every transaction, every wire, every dollar I'd given over the years, with no thanks, no intention of return. Over $186,000 since I retired. That's what a father does, right? Gives, then disappears. Not me. I compiled the documents, printed copies, sealed them in envelopes, and mailed one to their address. Another to a lawyer. One more to a family friend. I didn't want revenge. I wanted proof that I was more than a bank account. I left a note inside. You didn't lose your father. You lost your funding. There's a difference. No anger. No threats. Just truth. And truth, when it finally arrives, is heavier than silence. A week went by. Not a single message with love. Only demands wrapped in fake concern. One voicemail stood out. His voice, my daughter's husband, shaky now, not angry. Look, I might have been a little harsh. We didn't mean to push you away. You can come back if you want. We'll figure it out. Figure it out? Funny how my absence was suddenly something that needed figuring out. They didn't miss me. They missed the faucet they thought would run forever. But the tank was dry, and the old man who once filled it, he was finally building something of his own. At the center, I'd started teaching a weekly woodshop class to other vets. Hands still trembled sometimes, but not as much as they used to. There was a retired Marine named Ellis who hadn't spoken in 3 months, until I showed him how to polish oak. He said one word, thanks. That one word meant more than years of I love you from people who never meant it. Meanwhile, I heard things were falling apart back home. Turns out, when you build your life on someone else's savings, it collapses quick. My daughter lost her part-time job. Her husband had never held one for long anyway. Bills started piling up. The bank called. Then the landlord. I didn't celebrate. I just watched, like rain finally washing away rot. See, sometimes life doesn't need a hammer to deliver justice. It just needs time and silence. I sent one more letter. Short. Simple. If money was the only thing tying us together, then we were never a family. And I'm okay letting go. No threats. No explanations. Just truth again. And this time they didn't respond. Not because they didn't want to, but because they finally understood. I was no longer theirs. It's strange how quiet becomes a companion. In that silence, I began to hear things I hadn't in years. The sound of my own breathing in the morning. The scrape of a chair across tile. The creak of my knees, not from weakness, but from living. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. At the vet center, they started calling me Coach. Ellis brought me a carving knife as a gift. Said, "You gave me something back, Frank. I'm not invisible anymore." Funny. That's exactly how I used to feel in my daughter's house. Like a ghost they forgot to bury. But now, I had routine. I had purpose. I had peace. And then, I got a letter. Handwritten. Tear stains smudging the corners. It was from my daughter. She wrote, "Dad, I didn't see it. I didn't want to. You were always giving, and I thought that's just who you were. But I see now. I stopped being your daughter and started being your manager. And I'm sorry." She didn't ask for money. Didn't beg me to come back. Didn't try to explain him away. Just owned her part. And for the first time, I cried. Not out of hurt, but because someone finally saw me again. I didn't respond right away. Not out of spite, but because I was still learning how to live for me, not for guilt, not for repair. I went for a walk that night. Cold air in my lungs, stars overhead like tiny permission slips from the universe. Permission to keep going, to choose joy, even if it came late. Some debts can't be paid in money, only in realization. And some wounds don't need bandages, they just need to be acknowledged. I wasn't done healing. But for once, I wasn't the only one trying. 3 months passed. No drama. No shouting. Just small days with quiet victories. I taught 5 more veterans how to build something with their hands. I helped Ellis write a letter to his daughter, the first contact in over a decade. We shared stories at night, laughed at memories that hurt less now, drank bad coffee, and pretended it tasted good because it was hot and ours. One day, the center director pulled me aside. Said, "Frank, some of the guys say you've changed this place." I chuckled. All I did was show up. But that's the thing, isn't it? We wait our whole lives to be useful to people who don't deserve us. And when we finally give that energy to those who do, the whole world feels lighter. Then something unexpected happened. A letter, this time from my granddaughter. She wrote, "Mom says you're doing better. I'm glad. I miss your stories. I miss you. Can I come visit?" I held that letter in my calloused hands for a long time. Longer than I've held most things in life. Because it wasn't written in guilt. Or in need. Just love. I wrote back. Told her where I was. Told her to bring a photo album and an open mind. She came the next week. Didn't flinch at the worn floors or the old chairs. Just hugged me like she was picking up where we left off. And that's when I realized. I didn't walk away from my family. I walked away from the version of them that forgot who I was. Now maybe, just maybe, they're starting to remember. I built planes. I built furniture. But the most important thing I ever built was boundaries. And now, finally, I was building a future where I existed too. The day my granddaughter left, she slipped a note into my coat pocket. It said, "You're not just part of our past, Grandpa. You're the best part of what I want in my future." That night, I sat alone in the common room. Old jazz playing low on the radio. Rain tapping the windows like a soft applause from the sky. And I thought about all the years I spent giving. Giving money. Giving silence. Giving second chances. And how none of it meant a thing until I gave something to myself. Freedom. I never raised my voice. Never slammed a door. I just stepped out of the space they tried to shrink me into and stood tall again. And somehow, by doing that, I became visible again, not to all, but to the ones who mattered. My daughter called last week, not to ask for anything, just to talk. She said, "Dad, I finally get it." I didn't say much in return. Didn't need to. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't served cold. Sometimes it's warm, quiet, undeniable. I'm not going back. I'm not bitter. I'm not broken. I've just become something they didn't expect. Whole. These days, I still drink cheap coffee. Still walk a little slower. Still hum when I work with wood. But I carry myself differently. Because I'm not the man who left that house empty-handed. I'm the man who walked away full. And if you ever feel like your worth is measured only by what you give, remember this. Take back your value, and they'll never take you for granted again.